Kia ora, I'm Wim, and welcome to the fifth in our series of tutorials for the Apollo Dynamic campaign. So far, we've been talking about supply and how it relates to the major objectives. But if you've played Apollo before, you'll have noticed these coloured lines on the map and also these coloured-in zones. Today, we're explaining what's going on there. We're explaining convoys and pop-up objectives. Let's start with convoys. As mentioned in a previous video, the movement of supply between objectives in Apollo happens in a background simulation. But seeing as strafing up convoys on roads and railways was such a big part of the air war in real life, Apollo does include destroyable convoys which have important effects on the campaign. At the start of the mission, you'll see convoy routes marked on the map, and as the mission goes on, convoys will set off along these routes. If it arrives safely, a convoy delivers a small amount of bonus supply to the objective it arrives at. Remember, we mentioned last episode that bonus supply is important because it basically appears out of thin air. It doesn't take supply from other objectives. It generates new supply. And this means destroying convoys is an important part of preventing the enemy from resupplying their front line. And by the way, convoys are binary, so they either arrive or they don't arrive. If you kill half the vehicles in a convoy, that doesn't mean it delivers half the supply. Convoys come in two flavours, road and rail. Road convoys travel on roads, obviously, and are typically made up of about 6 vehicles, a mix of half-tracks, trucks, fuel trucks and AA vehicles. Rail convoys travel, surprise surprise, on rails and are made up of a locomotive pulling a bunch of carriages and trucks, some of which will have AA guns mounted on them. You don't need to destroy every vehicle in a road convoy to prevent it from delivering bonus supply. Destroying about 3/4 of the vehicles is usually enough. However, for train convoys, it is mandatory to destroy the locomotive. If you don't kill the locomotive, the bonus supply will still get delivered safely even if all of the cars following it are destroyed. This is unfortunately just one of those weird quirks of the way IL-2's multiplayer works, which the Apollo team just can't really work around. The movement of convoys are reported both in text pop-ups and also on the command channel on SRS, so you'll get notified when a convoy has departed and when it's nearing its objective. Okay, so that's convoys. Next, let's talk about pop-up objectives. Pop-ups are intended to represent relatively small detachments of troops, armour and engineers near the front line, which have been identified as a priority target. Apollo places pop-ups by looking for the objective which received the most damage that day. It then may decide to place a pop-up on the opposite side of the front line near that objective. This represents that command has noticed a collapse in supply in a certain area of the enemy front line and has maybe tasked a detachment of troops to push this area or rebuild a bridge so that armour can move forward. Pop-ups can have a drastic effect on the front line because they basically immediately add a 100 supply objective right near the front, and pop-ups are always 100 supply, just by the way. Pop-ups can receive resupply if they're damaged, just like any other normal objective, but they only exist for a limited time. Currently, they'll vanish after 14 days of campaign time, but that may be tweaked or tuned in future. Also, you'll notice you don't immediately get the exact location of a pop-up objective, just a zone where you can look for them in. The exact location will only be revealed if a pop-up is successfully damaged by ground attackers. Okay, so that's all for this episode, just a nice short one. Next time, we're going to be talking about aircraft availability and balancing mechanics. See you there.